Hello and welcome to Life After Lupus, Sunday night story time, as I like to call it. It seems like a great time to just chat and read a little chapter from my book called Life After Lupus, What's Your Autoimmune Name? I know there are so many people being diagnosed with autoimmune these days, and it seems that a lot of us who are feeling well are doing very similar things. So thanks for tuning into my story, and encourage you to find others as well, especially if you're dealing with some sort of autoimmune illness. Then it would be super important to kind of hang on the coattails of some folks who have come through and are on the other side and continue to fight this battle and win most days, not all, but certainly more days than not. And I'm very thankful for that as I get older. I mean, every day we get older, and I think about how life has passed and decades have passed since I was first diagnosed with lupus, and how many years I've actually been able to be well. And I'm very, very thankful for that. Even as I was jogging around the dog park today and thinking, wow, at my age, close to 60, which is just, I can't even believe it. I still feel 13. But at, getting to be that 6 decades old, and I still have a couple of years, but certainly, thinking about how many years I have felt well and how many decades I felt well, I'm very grateful to have my health. So I'm just sharing another chapter. This chapter is called Reading. I know I did a lot of reading and studying and researching back when I was sick because I wanted to read everything I could, hoping to find the secret or part of that secret sauce to being well. So, and I have found a lot of things just by doing what other people do and following in their footsteps. And that seeking, it's biblical, seeking you shall find. And I did a ton of seeking. It just really never occurred to me that I would be sick for the rest of my life. I didn't even think about that. And our thoughts are super, super powerful. So as our thoughts are in a new, in a different direction, for me they were, how can I get well? How can I get well? I was 30 years old and I wasn't willing to spend the rest of my life sick. So it was really important for me to seek out ways to feel better. And I tried it all. And some things worked and some things didn't. But thankfully, on the other side now, for years, I've been well, and I'm thankful for that. So back to the book here. While I was ill, I read everything that I could on natural healing, particularly healing from cancer. I thought if I did everything that people who had healed from cancer did, I would likely heal as well. This was ultimately my story. I read where miraculous healing occurred when people juiced for 90 or more days, putting nothing in their bodies but organic vegetables and fruits. So I juiced for a while. I read a fairly radical book about people who had become fruitarians, eating just fruit. Their diseases or ailments disappeared. This was really a radical book, and it was written turn of the century, the 19th century, or the 20th century, back in the 1900s, where there was a doctor, or at least a person, I can't remember now, it's been 20 some years since I read the book, but someone who really discovered that eating fruit was more advantageous than even eating vegetables. It did a more thorough cleansing. So even people, let's just say people who fast for a significant period of time, days, a couple of weeks up to a month, those folks shouldn't then start out eating fruit because it would almost cleanse too quickly. It does a more thorough cleansing job. So when they start eating vegetables again and not the fruit. Fruit is so cleansing that it takes it a step further than the vegetarian. So it was amazing, this book. I couldn't eat much fruit during my healing process due to the leaky gut syndrome and rebuilding the good bacteria, but was very much intrigued by the possibility. And I was, when I read about these fruitarians, and they would eat the fruit in season, and that's all they would eat. I remember reading this one lady's story, and she grew her children up as fruitarians as well. They never got sick. She looked like she had natural lipstick and blush on. She was beautiful. And it was truly because her body was just so cleansed consistently from just eating fruit. It's amazing when we put all the right stuff in, how our bodies respond to that, and they do a lot of great healing. I started seeing food in a completely different way than most people viewed food. It could save my life and yet just as easily destroy it. I also read where people were taking trips to Mexico and going through intense clinics to purge their systems and free themselves of cancer. There were options to heal that I didn't even know existed until I was on a quest to heal my life. Reading about others' healing was so inspirational to me that it offered me hope. As a 30-year-old person, I couldn't conceive, and I just said this, I couldn't conceive of the possibility of living like a sick person for the rest of my life. It just wasn't in my capacity to think about or accept. So the quest continued, and as it did, my health was restored little by little, day by day. I distinctly remember, and I think I shared this in last week's video or the week before. I distinctly remember the first day I could clean my house, which I had been unable to do for a couple of years. It was monumental for me. It really, really was. Some days it felt like there was no progress, and other days I could see and feel the progress as compared to months or years before. At the end of the 3-year wellness journey I was on, I was listening to a modern-day health guru. His name, I didn't mention his name in my book because I didn't know how to get the proper, I don't know what you call it, the proper, acknowledgement to use his name in my book. So I didn't use it, but it was Deepak Chopra. I was watching a PBS special with Deepak Chopra and I hadn't really heard of him before. This was a long time ago, like 25 years ago. And I heard him say that every 3 years, each cell in our body is made new, I think with the exception of our brain cells. I looked at my husband and said that this was exactly what I had just done, even though I didn't know the science behind it. Every cell in my body was being made new over a 3-year period. And I had a brand new body that was well functioning and would serve me for years to come. So I'm thankful that I had the opportunity to go through the health challenge that I went through so that I could learn how to better take care of my body. And not only that, I mean, it opened up a whole new world. Like I had just read food. I viewed food far differently than I ever had. It could heal or it could destroy my body, one or the other. So I had choices to make. And I was so careful way back then. Just really vegetables. And after a year or two, I was able to add in some rice noodles and some rice, which was lovely because I hadn't had carbs in a year or two. Yeah, Joanne. So I didn't know so much that about fruit either, but I just kind of read everything I could get my hands on. And this little teeny book, there was another man that I read about in that book who was very sickly, had a lot of asthmatic issues. And way back when, in the early 1900s, there just wasn't the kind of treatment that we have today. And he somehow stumbled onto, he was around 20 and just kept getting sicker, like bedridden sick. And he decided to fast. And he would do that then frequently over the years to come in his life. That was like a reset for his body. And this man had become so healthy through food or lack thereof, because he would really fast for about 30 days. And then it was so interesting. He said, when he came out of a fast, I think he ate figs. And then he would go run almost a marathon. This man was getting healthier and healthier, sort of the less he ate, and did just switch over to being that fruitarian. And then I read this woman's short story about the same thing. I mean, it had just brought her back into just health that she had never experienced before. So it was amazing. In this little tiny book, there were several stories of people who had not just healed their lives, but had become extraordinarily healthy through just eating fruit. So yeah, that was an amazing insight to me as well. And that it is, like I said, more cleansing. So sometimes we have to be careful if we have super toxicity inside of our bodies. We don't want to eat just fruit because it would be a really tough detox. But once we've detoxed with enough vegetables, then we can start detoxing with fruit and maybe eat fruit for 24 hours. And then a next week or next month, make that 2 days kind of thing, where our body is going through this cleansing process a little bit more slowly instead of doing it over. I mean, a person could eat fruit for a month, but I'm sure there'd be times where it would be a pretty rough go. So our bodies are resilient, though. It's beautiful how they detox, and we might feel really crummy and think, oh, that didn't work, but actually it's cleansing. Our bodies are cleansing, and we're getting rid of the toxins. They come to the surface and enter the bloodstream, and then they exit out. So, but while they're in the bloodstream, kind of feel like we have the flu. And I've gone through many of those detox moments, so or days, if you will. So lots of ways to heal, and it just, I love reading this every week, because I wouldn't necessarily do that unless I was reading it to you, because it brings it top of mind again for me for this next week on how I should be just a little bit more careful here and there, and maybe cut out this and stop that, and less of this type thing. So and then adding in adding in that more fruit. So well, I hope your week is a lovely one, and I welcome emails, Andrea@AndreaLendy.com, where we can connect and I can share more about my story with you, more specific things than maybe are in my book. It is available on BarnesandNoble.com and Amazon.com, and I'll just show you what the cover looks like so you can get a better picture of what that looks like. So yes, well, I look forward to next week, and you can follow me on my Facebook, the Life After Lupus. I do almost daily short videos just of inspiration when I head out to the dog park very early in the morning. It seems, yes, Joanne, that would be lovely. We need to write a cookbook with health info and recipes. Great idea. I need to start jotting down some of these things. And in the interim, I know Matt Embry has a free cookbook as well on his website at mshope.com. You can download it as a free PDF, and I think even reach out and they'll mail one for free. They really want to get that information out. And his is very well done as well. So he eats lean meats, fruits, and vegetables, but lots and lots of recipes, because this man is in his 40s, was diagnosed with MS when he was 19, and both his wife and his mom put together their cookbook. But yeah, Joanne, that would be lots of fun to, hey, Emily, happy Sunday to you as well. We're just finishing up here, and Joanne and I were conversing back and forth here about putting together a cookbook for autoimmune sufferers, and trying to give some really healthful suggestions on what to eat. And I had been talking, Emily, about how fruit is even more cleansing than vegetables. And so when our bodies are super toxic, first we want to start with vegetables, because the cleansing process would be probably fairly abrupt and maybe a little radical if we went to just fruit. I had read a book way back when, probably 25 years ago, and it was an old book about some people who were experimenting with being fruitarians, and they had truly come back from some pretty significant illnesses, and were living very, very healthy lives on just fruit alone. So that's been kind of fun to think about again. And I don't even know if that book is still in print. I mean, it was literally like early 1900s or maybe even late 1800s. They were talking then about hospitals as being asylums. So that's how far back they go. And this one gentleman who really had suffered from asthmatic issues and was bedridden, not even 20, I don't think. He discovered this key to eating fruit and fasting. He fasted a lot, and he was running marathons after fasting, and then he would just eat a few figs and he'd be on his way to running a marathon. I mean, he had detoxed over and over and over again through fruit, and served him very, very well. So Yeah, something to think about, even if we took one day and said, okay, today just fruit, or mornings. I've read, there's been, I've read things over the years about just eating fruit until noon. And that's another option as well. I know some years back, my brother-in-law said that that was his weight loss tool, just eating fruit till noon. And then he felt like he could pretty much eat anything after noon because his body was getting that kind of detox thing, and not a lot of calories before noon, but then kind of felt like he could eat whatever after. But wouldn't that be interesting to try and just do fruit all day for one day and see what happens? So that could be fun too. Well, want to let you go, don't want to keep you too long here this evening, but thank you so much for joining me, and hopefully there's a tip in here or two that we can all use to just be healthier. Yeah, the intermittent fasting, that's a good thing as well, for sure, so that our bodies, it's amazing what happens. What I find, honestly, is when I eat less, I actually feel better. And it's this hard concept. We think we need to be, eating a certain number of calories or a certain number of meals every day. But intermittent fasting is huge. I was watching a TED Talk on that not too long ago from a nurse who gave her TED Talk on intermittent fasting and how healthy it really is for us. And I remember, when I was 30 and I had to quit eating all food, like everything but just that liquid drink that I drank for 90 days. And how much healing is done when we keep putting things into an already distressed intestinal tract. It doesn't allow the intestinal tract for rest, and which then promotes healing. I know there's another woman that I used to read about. She had every week they fasted for one day. It was a family thing. On a Monday they would all fast, and there was great weight control. It was really nice to give mom a break from cooking that one day a week. Their bodies were healthier because it gave their bodies time to rest. We don't think about giving our intestinal tract time to just rest and heal, but rest is so healing. It's restorative, right? We rest at night and wake up the next morning and can do one more day. So that's another thing to consider, is just even fasting one day a week. But if we allow that 18 hours, I think 16 or 18 hours between meals, night and morning, our bodies get that healing during that time as well. So great interchange here. Thank you so much, and we shall see you next week. Again, you can email me anytime, Andrea@AndreaLendy.com, and be sure to follow during the week with just some encouraging messages, very short, a minute or less, on Facebook at Life After Lupus. Thank you.